You saved the cheerleader, so we could save the world.
And welcome, fellow Hiros fans, to another audio installment of Watching the Eclipse, the column that runs on ComicRelated.com, written by yours truly, Brant, Fowler. And we are picking up with week 2. If you haven't been following the column, basically what I've done is gone back and I'm rewatching every episode of the TV show Hiros that used to run on NBC, starting back in 2006 through 2010. And every single day, Monday through Friday, I'm writing a column about a new episode of the show, and on Saturdays you're getting these audio installments. So this is the second week, so I'm going to be talking about episodes 6 through 10, just an overview kind of, and a few additional details that I don't go into in the columns, just to give you something extra. So as we left off with episode 5 from last week, we were on a good start to the main subplot of this first half year of the show. We got the message, "Save the cheerleader, save the world," that became synonymous with the show, and it kind of kicked things off from there. And this week, that particular subplot culminates by the end of the week, and going into the next phase of the show. So that's where we pick things up. We have, of course, 5 episodes, like I said, episodes 6 through 10. We have Better Halves, Nothing to Hide, 7 Minutes to Midnight, Homecoming, and 6 Months Ago. So obviously the 6 months ago, that takes place after this all culminates. The other 4 episodes lead up to that point. So I'm not going to rehash like scene by scene and all that stuff like I do in the column. In case you didn't hear the first audio installment, that's not exactly what I do. I just kind of give an overview. So with Better Halves, it was basically about it kind of had a dual meaning. It was either about the kind of the dual identities of these characters, and it also involved some of their significant others. Like in the case of Nikki, DL showed up, and he played an integral part in this episode. And Claire kind of coming into her own and everything. But I think Nikki and DL, they were the main impetus for this particular episode, as DL learns the secrets behind Nikki, and Nikki kind of starts to embrace her alter ego, and it kind of comes out, and that leads to some bad things, as I'm sure you know if you've watched it or if you read the column. So we also have Claire meeting her biological parents and learning that her father may have set this up. We have Peter ranting about people that this guy that can paint the future, or actually, yeah, he's ranting about people that can save the future. Mohinder's doubting everything. Hiro and Ando are headed to New York via Las Vegas, and it's just it's a crazy romp, but it's kind of building. It was a slower episode. This episode, I actually referenced the Beaming Beeman blog for this episode in the column, because he talked about this particular episode and just like a handful of episodes throughout that were kind of slower, the entire first season's mainly character driven with a couple of plots and subplots in the background, but this was more focused on the quieter moments of the characters. There's still some action, but it is a slower, smaller production of the show. So they had to do that to balance out costs for the show, but it was still an excellent episode, and it served to give us some more insight into these various characters. So it's interesting to note that Ali Larter, she actually had never done TV before the show. She had only done movies, films, And in that same blog, Beeman actually interviewed Larder about her work. So if you want to check it out, I linked to it in the column, so you can check out the column for that. And of course, I'll link to the column in the show notes. But she actually she submitted this particular episode 6, Better Halves, for her work in the category of Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Drama Series for the 59th Emmy Awards. But she unfortunately was not nominated for the award, but she did submit this for that. So, and let's see, was there anything else that I wanted to note about this? Yes, there was. There was a goof with this particular episode, and actually earlier episodes too. But in this particular episode, we see the painting of the cheerleader that Peter finishes once he absorbs Isaac's powers, and he finishes painting the cheerleader in the corner. We see it with clean white on the edge, and then when we see a close-up, it's dripping red paint, and then we see it clean again. So it's one of those continuity things. It's just a little goof that astute eyes would pick up, but nothing big. And let's see, was there anything else about that particular episode? Yes, I did want to mention this as well. When when DL flips through the comic books of Micah's, when he's looking through his comic book list, there's one in there called Tales from Space. This is actually a comic created by Andrew Probert specifically for the movie Back to the Future, and it appears in a scene where Mr. Peabody's kid finds Marty and the DeLorean in their barn. So just a cool little Easter egg for fans of Back to the Future. Of course, Ninth Wonders was in there as well, which features Hiro traveling through time, so pretty cool. So with Nothing to Hide, episode 7, it's when everything started to come out to the open. Micah, we started learning that he actually had powers. We learned that there's a connection between Peter and Charles DeVoe, who is Simone's dad, that Peter was the hospice nurse for. And we meet Nathan's wife, and we learn that she's in a wheelchair, and that's we kind of get some insight into Nathan's character a little bit. And let's see, Matt talks to his wife about he hears thoughts from her and starts learning about her affair that she has with his former partner. And Claire's brother learns about her abilities. So it's everything's starting to come out to the open and starting to really mess with the status quo, which is very interesting to see play out. And speaking of Emmy Awards, the 59th Emmy Awards, Tawny Cypress, who does play Simone DeVoe, actually submitted this particular episode for her consideration in the same category of Outstanding Supporting Actress. And I'm not sure if she was nominated or not. It doesn't say she wasn't, so maybe she was. I don't think she won, though. So, with 7 minutes to midnight, episode 8, I mentioned this in the column too, that title is taken straight out of the original Doomsday Clock setting, which was set to 11:53 p.m. And of course we are leading up to a major plot point of the nuclear explosion that's supposed to destroy New York, which is the kind of the second half, the back half of the season, where we're headed to with that. And so we get, obviously, Ted Sprague, the man that is emitting radiation. He comes into heavy play in this episode as Parkman and Agent Hansen have him in custody, and they're trying to talk him down and trying to get the details about this doctor that died, this oncology doctor that was treating his wife. And so they learn, okay, this guy is definitely not Siler, and so that kind of introduces us to this guy who has nuclear powers. And Mohinder is back in India, and he's trying to find himself, and he starts having these dreams and everything. And he starts, he sees his father. He learns about his sister. He sees what we come to find out later is Siler killing his father, and so on and so forth. Also, HRG, which is Noah Bennett, Claire's dad, is he's hot on the trail of Siler. He's trying to get Isaac's help to get Siler to paint a painting, but he has to give him the drugs, and he's trying to stay clean and all that stuff. But so it's a very dramatic all the way through as we're leading up to the culmination with next episode, which is Homecoming. And I have to add, though, in 7 Minutes to Midnight, this was actually Zachary Quinto's first appearance as Siler. Siler, of course, we never saw anywhere near his face. He was always shadowed in the distance in previous episodes, but this episode you can actually tell if you paid attention enough that Zachary Quinto was in the role, but this was his first actual role as the character. So, in Homecoming, this is where it all comes to a head. Siler is to attack the cheerleader, and everybody's supposed to save the cheerleader, so everybody's heading to Texas. Nathan's trying to prevent it by destroying the painting so Peter can't see, but Simone has a digital photo and shows him, so he's on the track. He knows he's probably going to die, but he has to do what he has to do. This is his destiny, he feels. DL and Mike are being hunted down by Nikki. She's trying to, or actually it's Jessica, who we learn a little more about in the next episode. But she's hunting him down, trying to get her son back, or Nikki's son back. It's confusing since they're the same person. You have HRG ordering Eden and the Haitian to take out Siler, and so everybody's at the school. Hiros still lost. He's traveled back in time to try to save Charlie, who was killed by Siler last episode, and so he's not around. And it's crazy. Claire sneaks out to go to the homecoming dance, and she's her and Jackie are in the locker room. Siler attacks. He picks the wrong one because, of course, he thinks Jackie is the hero. Learns that's not the case, but luckily Peter shows up, and then we get our first confrontation with them. And Peter dies, but thanks to his absorption powers, Claire finds him, and he absorbs her powers and comes back to life. So, very, very interesting episode, because Siler is actually caught at the end, and that's kind of where we leave things. We leave things with Nikki / Jessica pulling a gun on DL, actually firing a shot, but we don't see what happens. We have Eden and the Haitian capturing Siler. We have Peter being hauled off to jail because he's covered in blood, and they think he's responsible for the cheerleader's death, for Jackie's death. And you have Claire about to tell her father about her abilities, and you have Hiros still stuck in time. He's gone back 6 months into the past, when he was only trying to go back a day, and so a lot happening that leaves us at quite a cliffhanger, which we don't get resolved in the next episode. But it's good that it wasn't, because it gave us some deeper information about the characters. But I'll get to that in a second. Going back to Beeman, the blog of the producer-director, he directed this episode, and he mentioned in his blog post for this one that he was focused on 3 particular scenes, and he also talked about his process of how he approaches a script. Once he gets the draft, he reads it, and then he rereads it and makes notes the second time around and everything. But for this one, he was focused on 3 particular scenes, which were, and I just lost it. Where'd they go? 3 scenes that he wanted to focus on. The first one was the opening sequence at the school, and the second being Siler's attack on Claire and Jackie, and the third being the fulfillment of Isaac's painting. So the entire episode was centered around those 3 particular scenes, and they kind of framed the episode, if you think about it, because you had the opening of the school, so that shows the setting, and it kind of paints the picture of it's a happy time at first, but you get the impeding doom that is coming. Siler's attacking on Jackie and Claire in the locker room as lights go dark and everything's starting to come together. And then the culmination of the pains, where we see the actual scenes. We see Peter laying on the ground, we see Claire stumbling on the bleachers, and so on and so forth. And it's really interesting the way that he describes playing those scenes out. So the last scene of this week, which is the episode 10, 6 months ago, shoots us back 6 months in the past to follow up with Hiro and his quest to save Charlie. So he meets her and he realizes he's 6 months in the past. He's freaking out. He tries to call Ando and ends up talking to himself and says "Great Scott" in Japanese, and which is straight from Back to the Future again, and also from Perry White from Superman. And he's trying to convince Charlie that he's from the future, and she thinks he's a magician and everything, and by the end of the episode she reveals that she's got a blood clot, and he comes back to the present and realizes that he can't change the past, and that really sets a tone for Hiro from this point forward. But I'll get to that in a minute, because while we're 6 months in the past, we get to look in on the various main characters, main cast of the show, and see what they were up to, and how 6 months ago kind of started this chain reaction that brought these characters to the present, and where they started to connect, because they actually nearly, some of them nearly crossed paths 6 months ago. And Nikki, and also 6 months ago is when all their powers started to manifest, which is also very interesting. So Nikki was at an AA meeting, and her father comes back into her life, and he's acting really sketchy. He's trying to apologize and everything, and Nikki's just like, "You just weren't there," and he keeps on throughout the episode, "Why do you keep doing that? Why are you acting like I'm so innocent or whatever?" And we learn that Nikki has a sister named Jessica that died when they were kids, and apparently her father was responsible because he was abusive, and she took all the abuse. And that's when we start to see Nikki's alter ego start to come out, and that's where Jessica comes from. She manifests from within Nikki, and so that's how she is birthed, by the reemergence of their father. And by the end of the episode, she just tells him to disappear. Jessica, completely in control, tells him to disappear and never come back. And we see Peter is just becoming a hospice nurse. He's just graduated or passed his certification or whatever, and he's having a party. Nathan's looking down on him pretty much, but he also informs him that the district attorneys want him to prosecute Linderman, which will take their father down as well. And as Nathan leaves the party, him and his wife are together. It's before her accident. They are run off the road by Linderman's people, and they're in a convertible. And as they're about to be run off the road, Nathan's powers kick in, and he's pretty much thrown out of the car up in the sky, and is watching from above, not able to get down, as his wife in the passenger seat careens into a barrier, and that's what caused her accident and the loss of her legs. So, but we also see that Peter was already developing powers, because he had a dream about this. He woke up from it right before he got the call to go to the hospital, and he saw the car crash. And the fact that he also flew in a dream with Simone's dad, that's a little telling about Simone's dad, so we'll see where that goes in the future. But we finally meet Gabriel Gray, who later becomes Siler, and Chandra Suresh has tracked him down, and he's testing him and everything, but he finds nothing, and Gabriel's frustrated, and he steals the address of another potential and tracks him down, and he learns that he can steal those powers, and he acts like he had the powers develop on his own, and teams up with Chandra to find these others, which is how we learn basically Sylar has similar powers to Peter, but receives them in a much different way. He has to kill, and that's how he's managed to get the powers that he has now, which we'll learn more about as time goes on. But a very, very interesting introduction to Sylar, and Zachary Quinto amazing in the role. His first speaking part as Sylar. So, and Matt Partman, we got a little glimpse of Matt and Eden. Matt actually pulled Eden over, so it was interesting to see them connect. HRG was in there. We saw Claire the first time her body healed from a wound, and HRG planting Eden in Chandra Suresh's life, and so on and so forth. So, like I said, it was a very illuminating episode, and a very fitting episode to kind of transition. And at the very end of the episode, we got to go back into the present and relive the scenes that closed out the last episode. And then we get that touching scene with Hiro saying he was in love with Charlie, and he couldn't save her. He went forward and backward, but he couldn't do anything about it. And so now we know that when the next episode airs, we are jumping right back into where we left off, and it doesn't feel like any disconnect. We actually know more than we did before, and now we can move forward with this knowledge. So it's just brilliantly done. And I have to note that by this episode, or by the next episode actually, Hiros was a bona fide success. It was getting 16 million viewers. It had brought NBC out of a slump. And Hiros and NFL on Mondays NFL games had brought NBC out of a slump that they had been in, and everybody was on the Hiros bandwagon at this point. A couple of things. I think there was a quote or a goof or something. No quotes or goofs for this one. I mean, nothing notable anyway. But by this time, it was like a week later. This episode aired in late November of 2006. By mid-December, they had already collected an assortment of honors and accolades. They had been nominated for Best New Series of 2007 in 2006. So, I mean, obviously it's in the 2006-2007 year. They had been nominated for a Golden Globe Award. Masi Oka, who plays Hiro Nakamura, had been nominated for a supporting actor on a TV series, and they would just continue to be nominated for awards for the next couple of years. And like I said, the ratings had steadily climbed. The pilot had gained like 14 million by episode 9. They had gotten up to 16 million, and so they were on the rise at this point, and it was a hit. Everybody loved the show. It was the new Lost. So that's pretty much all there is about this second week. It was just another fantastic assortment of episodes that brought us through the first subplot and kind of launches us into the next phase, as we're going to learn more and more about Sylar and see what he's really capable of in the episodes to come. So that's going to be your audio installment for this week's Watching the Eclipse column. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you're enjoying the column. Please check it out on ComicRelated.com. Like I said, updates Monday through Friday, every single day, and then audio installments on Saturdays. So, until next week, stay extraordinary. Bye, everybody.